What is going on, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got the rest of Ignition Assault revealed. It's all, I think, 17 cards, I believe. So we got some really cool stuff, some stuff that could be meta relevant, some generic cards that are better than I thought they would looking at the card art. And yeah, I don't want to waste too much time getting into it here. But just real quick before we start, if you don't know about core sets, in the OCG there's our 80 cards, ours are 100. We get 20 cards revealed within the last month before the set comes out for us of OCG imports, random like TCG exclusive cards and archetypes. So we won't have those last 20 cards until like January, but this is rounding out all the 80 cards that we share with the OCG. So for both sets there, so that'll be what all of these cards are, the rest rounding out those. So let's get started with Silla, Lutea, a level 4 earth plant monster with 1800 attack and 100 defense. It cannot be destroyed by battle while you control another monster, and face-up spells and traps you control cannot be targeted by card effects. That's not that bad. I mean, assuming this is being used in a deck that likes to set up a lock or has some very powerful continuous spells and traps, or field spell, you just set this up, and then a lot of removal for back row is targeting. There's not a lot of wipes, really. They exist, but few and far between for the most part. Most people are using Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclone, both targeting cards, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, stuff like that. All those target. So pretty cool card. Next up we have Cloth Thief, a Link 2, Earth Beast with 700 attack, and those quintessential Link 2 bomb-ass arrows that point diagonal down both ways. You can only use this card's effect once per turn. It takes any two monsters with different names, so almost completely generic, which is pretty cool. His effect reads: if a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, you apply the following effects according to the type of monster that this card points to. If it was a ritual, you draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. It's a pretty nice, that's a pretty nice effect. Cool. I like that. If it's a fusion, you get to special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. If it's a synchro, all monsters you control gain 700 attack. And if it's an Xyz, all monsters your opponent controls lose 700 attack. So the synchro and Xyz ones, obviously those are mediocre. I mean, it's 2019. This will come out in 2020. That's just so mediocre, the stat things. But the ritual and the fusion ones, ritual, drawing 2 and discarding 2, very good phasing through your deck. And fusion, special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your deck, from your graveyard, which is a pretty nice, because assuming you're using a level 4 or lower monster for the fusion, you just bring it right back. And that's pretty interesting to me. This seems like a card that maybe possibly works with the new Shaddoll stuff. You just fusion summon and then revive one of the Shadolls right back, and then just gets an extra body on board to possibly make your construct, and yeah, go from there. It's a pretty cool card. I like this card. I think this could definitely be abused in certain decks. Next up we have a continuous trap called Head Judging, with effect that can only be used once per turn. When either player activates a monster effect on the field, you can have the activating player toss 1 coin and call it. If they call it right, send this card to the graveyard. Okay, brutal. If they call it wrong, negate the activation, and if you do, that player gives control of that monster to their opponent. More brutal. That's crazy. You either just go neg 1 or you negate and steal. Wow, and that's just a once per turn. So as long as you successfully win the die rolls as the player who owns the card, you just continuously negate and steal a monster every single turn. That's so crazy. Pair this up with a card that lets you re-roll, reflip coins and stuff. That's so strong. Card's so cheesy though. At the end of the day, it's still a 50-50. Next up we have Boren, a fire zombie effect monster, level 7, 1500 attack, 2200 defense. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn each. First call effect, you can discard a zombie monster to special summon this card from the hand. And the second effect says, during your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can target a zombie monster in either player's graveyard as cost. Special summon it, then banish this face-up card to the end phase, and banish the monster. Special summon this effect when it leaves the field. So a couple things here. I think the summon effect is actually pretty good. It helps you unclog Mizukis in your hand, Blooms in your hand, Banshee, Ballard Drop. Zombies, one of their worst nightmares, just clogging too many zombies that you want to have in graveyard in your hand. And this guy definitely helps with that, while also putting a body on board. And then as far as his other effect, I wish it was during either player's turn, but still, it's still decent that it's during your opponent's, because you're going to have Zombie World a lot of the time in this deck. So just being able to like take a monster from your opponent's graveyard, like link it away, or even if your opponent outs it, it gets banished. So you just like playing against Striker. You just revive their Ray if you have Zombie World up, link it away, and now their Ray's gone. And then you can just beat over their links and try and apply pressure that way. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. I will say I wish this guy was like 2200 attack and 1500 defense. I wish he had a higher attack stat just so he could be a little more threatening in the battle phase, because he doesn't really threaten your opponent too much. He doesn't force them to activate cards and stuff that he can like chain to and put them in awkward spots. But still, it's a good card nonetheless. We'll see if it actually does something enough in zombies to make it worth, but good card. Cool. I like it. Next up, we have Gravity Controller, a dark psychic effect monster with 1000 attack. It's a link 1 with a bottom left arrow. It takes any non-link monster in the extra monster zone. Weird. And then this card cannot be used as link material the turn it's summoned. First effect, this card in the extra monster zone is not destroyed by battle by monsters in the main monster zones. Okay. And then at the start of the damage step, when this card battles with an opponent's monster in the extra monster zone, you can return both this card and the opponent's monster to the opponent's deck. This card's pretty interesting. Like, the tough part about it is it's a link 1, so like you're probably, like, most of the time you're going to be putting in a card that you put at least 2 cards, 2 resources into just to make a link 1 that's going to go 1 for 1 with your opponent, that you're going to like bounce with your opponent. So I don't see this being played outside of like very specific strategies. Like, I think of like Zodiacs, because like Zodiacs have 1 card XZs, so it's like 1 normal summon will just get you into this, and then you just trade 1 for 1 with whatever's in your opponent's extra monster zone, and that's just like a non-targeting, non-destruction removal. So like that's okay. But like for decks that are putting like too many resources overall into this, I don't think it's that good. But it could be interesting in a select few archetypes for sure. And then the last card for the first page here is Time Thief, Time Recorder, which is a dark machine, level 4, with 1000, 2 different effects, both hard once returns. During your battle phase, during your opponent's battle phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card for the rest of this turn. The first time you would take battle damage from an opponent's attack, your opponent takes battle damage instead. And then the second effect, if a face-up XZ's monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, which could be Redoer removing himself, while this card's in the graveyard, special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So it just gets another level 4 body on board to make more XZ plays with in the future. It's a nice card. I don't know how crazy playable it is for Time Thieves, but it's interesting to say the least. Next up, we have Cataclysmic Cheerful Calcragra. Goes with the other cards that are like this, all like 2600, 200. This one is an Earth Fairy, level 8, with 1 effect that's a hard once per turn. If a face-up Earth monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, then you can send 1 monster from your deck to the graveyard. I really like that send. That's completely generic, which can be very, very good. But I think for the most part, the trigger for this card is just a little too requiring of your opponent to destroy something. Obviously, if this is in your hand, they won't know that like they're playing into this, so they think destroying is fine. It's just good removal. But still, a lot of people can just out your stuff without destruction at all. So it's okay in my opinion. It's just a little too reliant, a little too slow on your opponent, relying on your opponent. Then we have Vuloop, the Obsession, a level 4 Earth Fiend Tuner effect monster, 1200 attack, 1800 effect, 2 effects that are hard once per turns. If this card is in your hand, you can target a synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, banish that monster, and if you do, special summon this card. Okay, gets itself on the board. If this card is in the graveyard, you can target a synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, banish that monster, and if you do, add this card to your hand. Okay, so pretty much like he gets himself on board, then he loops himself back into hand to use for next turn. Nothing crazy here. I mean, like, I don't see him being used other than like a synchro like climb deck where you just like use a tiny synchro, get into a medium synchro, special him by banishing the tiny synchro from grave, then synchro up again, and then from grave banish him and the medium synchro to get him back to hand. So I think it's okay. I think he's like mediocre, but interesting card nonetheless. Next, we have like the best artwork I've ever seen in my life. We have Toon Knight, or Tune Knight because of the sound mice make. He's a Fire Warrior Union effect monster, level 1, 500 are his stats. He has a phenomenal cheese sword and mousetrap shield. If this card is special summoned, you can treat this card as a tuner for the rest of this turn, but you can only special summon one more time from the extra deck this turn. Also, once per turn, you can either unequip this card or equip this card to a monster, whatever, you know how it is. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy this card instead. Okay, not very good, but like, he's super cute. He made it just be like a super, pun intended, cheese card. Do a lot of cheese, but that's fine. Next up, we have Trans Cicada, an Earth Insect level 3 monster tuner effect. 800 attack, 1000 defense. You can only use this card's effect once per turn. If this card is special summon a husk token. So I guess it's like a cicada, and it's like shedding its shell, and the shell is the token. I like the lore, the theory behind that. As long as this token is special summoned, as long as the token special summoned by this effect remains in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except for insects. I like that. It doesn't just make it a generically powerful card that just puts tokens on the field, but it just like kind of floodgates you into insect plays, which is fine because I would only play this card in insects anyway because I love insects. So we'll see. This is an interesting card. Lets you put extra insect bodies on the board to make a possible link play. I like that. Next up, we have Battle Survivor, an Earth Warrior, level 4, 1600 attack, 800 defense. You can only use this card's effect once per turn. At the end of the battle phase, you can add one card from your graveyard to your hand that was sent to the graveyard during this battle phase while this monster was face up. It's a cheese card. I mean, it's just one of those things like you're only adding something that was sent during this battle phase. It's a little specific. It's a little niche, but I don't know. There could be some use for it. What do I know? It's interesting. Next up, we have Darumato, an Earth Warrior, level 4, with 700 attack, 1800 defense. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn each. Quick effect, you can detach a material from a monster you control, then target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and its attack becomes 0 until the end of the turn. If that negated and made it 0, I'd be super interested, because that's a legitimate disruption. But because it's not, it's just kind of meh to me. It's just battle phase shenanigans. Second effect, if you would detach an XYZ material from an XYZ monster you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead of detaching one of those materials, but you cannot use this effect the turn it is sent to the graveyard. So lets you save a material, I guess, which is fine. Next up, we have a spell for strikers. Strikers! We have Sky Striker Maneuver, Scissors Cross, a normal spell. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target a level 4 Sky Striker Ace monster in your graveyard as cost. Add it to your hand, or if you have at least 3 spells in the graveyard, you can special summon it instead. So this is like a recovery card, a recovery / possible extender, because a lot of people's theories right now are that with the new monster getting revealed, Rose, the only way its effects make sense are that Sky Strikers are going to get Link 2s or a Link 2. That's any good because there's no other reason you would play her, really, other than like consistency, I guess. And this card kind of pushes that because like you could just like make a play, like Link off Rose, bring her back, Link again, special Rose, and then make the Link 2. So like it's pretty good that way, right? So this card's pretty interesting. I think it's playable should like we get a Link 2 that's any good, and a lot of people also think that in this artwork this is our Link 2 that we will be getting, but it is yet to be seen. But we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll let you guys know when that does come out. But it's a pretty nice card. I mean, not bad, not amazing, but still helpful. Next up, we have a normal trap called Devil's Portrait that you can activate only once per turn. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls to activate this card. Special summon one monster with the same name from your deck or extra deck, but the monster you summon returns to the deck during the end of the next turn, and then after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from deck or extra deck for the rest of the turn. It's way specific, but I guess there are some niche uses here. I'm thinking against like Orcust, if they go Dingirsu, you chain this, or not chain this, but like if they have Dingirsu, you can just make this special your own Dingirsu if you're playing someone in your extra deck, a spicy tech. Special him out, send an opponent's monster to grave, and then you've just got a big beat stick, you know? So it's interesting. It's not amazing, but it's interesting, like disruption / just removal. So there could be niche uses for this, but I don't expect it to be too crazy good. Then we have Disposable Learning Machine. It's an equip spell with a second effect that can only be activated once per turn. The equipped monster gains 200 attack for each monster in your grave. Okay, that could actually get dangerous, get pretty big. During the end phase in which this card was sent from the field to the graveyard, you can set this card, but if you do, banish it when it leaves the field. Okay, it comes back, so not too shabby. If anything, this is just it has to be sent from field to graveyard. It's fine. I mean, it's a fine card. It's not amazing. Fragile Edged Sword is an equipped spell card as well. You can only control one at a time. The equipped monster gains 2,000 attack, and any battle damage it inflicts goes to both players. Oof, that's tough. And then if you take 2,000 or more battle damage, send this card to the graveyard. This card's terrible! Terrible! Ugh, gross. Then we have Cupids Serve, a light fairy, level 2 effect monster with 1,000 attack, 600 defense. You can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. It's unaffected by the activated effect of any monster other than monsters whose level are lower than or equal to this card. So anything that's level 3 or higher, but Lynx and Xyz still bypass that. Also, you can banish up to 3 cards from your graveyard to increase the level of this card by that number till the end of this turn. I mean, like, I guess in like a weird synchro deck, it could be interesting. Oh, it's not even a tuner. It's just whatever. It's just one of those like weird niche generic random cards that they make. But pretty cool here. Overall, we got a couple cool cards. This Link 2 is pretty interesting. The zombie monster could be playable in zombies. This guy in very specific decks could be playable. Time Thief card's okay. Sky Striker spell definitely will help the deck. This could be interesting. And Insects, a good card for them. And I think that's pretty much it. So nothing super crazy, but a lot of cool cards. I mean, just that's what the end of these sets usually end up being. They just end up being some random generic, like kind of filler cards, but like it's a 100-card set. Like they have to have some filler in there. So these are where usually those come in. But a couple also pretty interesting cards for specific strategies and even some kind of generic. So I'm going to leave it off there, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Sorry it got a little long. We got 17 new cards, so I kind of had to go through all of those. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely do that. We still growing. We just passed 500 subscribers, so we're definitely on the way to 1,000. I want to be able to make community posts. I think that would be such a helpful tool for me to like get news like from me across to you guys, or just ask your opinions on stuff. Easier to do it on this platform than like having you all follow me on Twitter or something and do all that stuff. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to that, but I'm just rambling about nothing now. Sorry. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, I'll see you later. Peace.